This is episode 12 of the CySec 101 series, and in today's episode we're going to be going through the Windows PowerShell command line, and this is all a part of the Cybersecurity 101 pathway that is available in TryHackMe. And today is actually the second video in the command line series that we see over here. In the last video, in episode 11, is what we did for the CMD, the command line for Windows. And in the very next episode, which is going to be episode 13, I want to say, is what we're going to do for the Linux shell and the Linux command line. So if you have not done so already, definitely go check out all of the fundamentals and the basics for Windows and Linux so that you have your ground, your foundation set. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into the intro for Windows PowerShell today. This episode is sponsored by the Hackaholics Anonymous membership community, which is the premier membership community for hackers and security professionals. And you can get access to things like Python automations every single month, access to our Discord servers for the various different levels that we have. You get access to exclusive content, exclusive downloads, and a bunch of other goodies by becoming a member of Hackaholics Anonymous. So if you haven't checked it out already, definitely go ahead and check it out. The link to join is in the description below, and you can also just go to our homepage on the channel, click the join button, and choose the tier that you're most interested in, and then from there you can join Hackaholics Anonymous. And I would love to see you in the Discord community and to see you in the comment section as well. All right, so here we go, PowerShell, and this is actually one of the most powerful things, no pun intended or anything like that, that has to do with Microsoft. Honestly, PowerShell is actually, I kind of prefer using PowerShell over the CMD executable that is available in Windows, and it's because it has a lot of built-in modules, I guess we can call them, or kind of libraries similar to what goes on with Python, for example. That's kind of one of the closest things that I can attach it to, and they're called cmdlets or cmdlets, and I will be going through a lot of those as we go through this tutorial today. But PowerShell, again, is just a very, very powerful command line utility that is in the category of command line tools when we talk about Windows. So we're about to learn a lot of good things about it. One of them is going to be what it actually is, right? So what is it? What does it do? What is the basic structure of the PowerShell language? And running some basic PowerShell commands, as well as understanding the very many applications that PowerShell has in the world of cybersecurity. And I did an entire video months ago on using PowerShell to enumerate Active Directory, because if you want to use the GUI, which is the graphical user interface, you're more than welcome to. But if you know what you're looking for, and if you know the commands to use, then you can get a lot done very, very quickly by using PowerShell. So for example, the case of the Active Directory video. So if you haven't checked that out, you can do enumerating Active Directory with PowerShell, and that would be one of the videos that's available. And again, it's just a really, really powerful video. And that was one of the very first videos that I ever created around PowerShell. And ever since then, I've just become a really big fan of it. The Windows and 80 fundamentals, which is the last set of videos. So the one right before this one would be episode 11. So episode 10, 9, 8, and 7 were all about Windows and Active Directory fundamentals, and the Windows command line room is essentially one of the other things that would be a good prerequisite for this one. So we can see that I've actually completed this room, which I believe is actually the very previous video. I thought it was a different room, but the video right before this one, which would be episode 11 of CySec 101, is the reference that they were talking about. So if you have not gone through episode 11, that would be another very useful video for you to complete and go through, which would go through the cmd.exe tool. And then today we're going to be going through the PowerShell tool. And this is a subscriber only room, meaning you would actually have to have a paid subscription to be able to access this particular room. But if you have a Windows computer, which I think most people have at least access to a Windows computer, if you have that, then you can follow along with the commands that we run, because pretty much every single installment or version of Windows has PowerShell, and then you can use it and kind of follow along with the commands that we're running. So really, really easy room, and I'm excited to go through it with you. So let's jump into it and see what we can do. All right, so the first question that we get to answer is, what is PowerShell even? So if we look at the description from the Microsoft page directly, we can see that PowerShell is a cross-platform task automation solution made up of a command line shell, a scripting language, and a configuration management framework. So just from the very basic description of it, it's used for task automation across various platforms. So that's, I would say, probably a very powerful and very useful description of the PowerShell tool. Now, PowerShell is a powerful tool from Microsoft designed for task automation and configuration management. It combines a command line interface scripting language built on the .NET framework. Unlike older text-based command line tools, PowerShell is object-oriented, which means that it can handle complex data types and interact with system components more effectively. And we will be talking about what these objects are, these object orientations of PowerShell. Initially exclusive to Windows, PowerShell has lately expanded to support Mac OS and Linux, making it a versatile option for IT professionals across different operating systems. So it's very, very useful to know that it's actually cross-platform. I was always under the impression that it is only available to Windows, but it seems to be that it's actually available to everybody else as well. So very, very cool and very useful. It was developed to overcome the limitations of existing command line tools and scripting environments in Windows in the early 2000s, as Windows was increasingly used in complex enterprise environments. Traditional tools like cmdlet and batch files fell short in automating and managing these systems, so Microsoft needed a tool that could handle more sophisticated administrative tasks and interact with Windows' modern APIs. Jeffrey Snover, a Microsoft engineer, realized that Windows and Unix handled system operations differently. Windows used structured data and APIs, while Unix treated everything as text files. This difference made porting Unix tools to Windows impractical. Snover's solution was to develop an object-oriented approach, combining scripting simplicity with the power of the .NET framework. Released in 2006, PowerShell allowed administrators to automate tasks more effectively by manipulating objects, offering deeper integration with Windows systems. As IT environments evolved to include various operating systems, the need for a versatile automation tool grew. In 2016, Microsoft responded by releasing PowerShell Core, an open source and cross-platform version that runs on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So PowerShell Core is actually the one that is cross-platform. So the power in PowerShell. To fully understand this, we need to understand what an object is in this context. In programming, an object represents an item that has properties or characteristics and methods that have characters or actions, So an object has characteristics and actions. So for example, a car object might have properties like color, model, fuel level, and methods like drive, honk horn, and refuel. So in PowerShell, similarly, objects are fundamental units that encapsulate data and functionality, making it easier to manage and manipulate information. An object in PowerShell can contain file names, usernames, or sizes as data, which would be the properties, and it can carry functions or methods such as copying a file or stopping a process. The traditional command shell's basic commands are text-based, meaning they process and output data as plain text. Instead, when a cmdlet or a commandlet is what we pronounce it, is run in PowerShell, it returns objects that retain their properties and methods. This allows more powerful and flexible data manipulation since these objects do not require additional parsing of text. So think about it like this. With basic command line, you are essentially having to designate what the data is, what the command is, or what the properties are, and what the methods and actions are. Versus when you deal with PowerShell, it kind of comes all-inclusive. So when you run a commandlet in PowerShell, it returns the objects that retain their properties and their methods. So it just returns an object that actually has the characteristics and actions. So instead of having to parse them and use them individually, you're kind of combining the use of all of those things. This allows for more powerful and flexible data manipulation. So referencing the Active Directory version of PowerShell, the video that I did on that, there was a commandlet that I used where it was like get AD user. So that commandlet would get you all of the AD users, and then from there you would pull the various properties, for example, their names, their usernames, and their user IDs and emails. Same thing with get AD policy, or get AD group, or get AD domain, get AD forest. These are types of commandlets that are run specific to Active Directory, that just inside of that command get AD user, it's already doing what you want it to do. It's going to get all of the users and their properties, and then it's going to run the get command that is going to pull all that information. Now you can kind of filter through that data and get what you want faster. So this is why PowerShell is so powerful. Man, that sounds so corny, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. So what do we call the advanced approach used to develop PowerShell? What is the advanced approach used to develop PowerShell? That's very interesting. Let's see what that answer is. So just reading through this initial description, PowerShell is object-oriented, and I would say that's probably the approach that they're referring to. So let's just paste that in here and see if that's the answer, and that is indeed the answer. So the advanced approach used to develop PowerShell is object orientation. So, or we can say that PowerShell is object oriented. Now that we have that, let's actually go into the basics of PowerShell. All right, so in order to pull this off, we actually have to launch the machine that was attached to this, which is this button, which I already clicked just to get ahead of the game. And then we need to also launch the attack box. Now, the attack box is just an in-browser Linux Ubuntu OS that we use to run all of our exercises. If you want to just use your own computer instead of the attack box, you can definitely do that, but you will need to connect to the THM servers by using OpenVPN. So that way you can actually access the IP address that is used right here, because if you don't use the attack box, or if you don't connect via OpenVPN, these IP addresses are not going to yield anything for you. They're just not going to load and nothing's going to work. So you have to be connected to the servers via OpenVPN, or you have to use the attack box, which comes pre-configured to be connected to the THM server. So that being said, we can then move on to getting logged in to SSH. Now, in this case, instead of using the command line to use SSH, we're actually going to use Remmina or Remmina, I guess. And so the Remmina is a tool that allows you to SSH log in into something. So it's kind of like a point and click SSH connection. And so Remmina remote client is what we're going to use to connect via SSH, and then we're going to use the login credentials that we have here with that IP address to be able to get into the Windows computer. And then once we are there, we will have the graphical user interface. Then you'll go ahead and launch PowerShell, which is going to be very easy to do at that point. So first, I'm just going to zoom out of this window, and then we are going to, wrong direction. We're going to zoom out, and then from here, we're going to log into our Ubuntu attack box, and then from there, we're going to get into the SSH to that Windows computer. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so it has been logged in. It seems like we actually have SSH inside of this Windows computer. So what we have here is that we can launch PowerShell in several ways depending on what we have. So if you're working with a GUI, then these are the possible ways to launch it. If you're not working with a GUI, then we can literally just type in PowerShell inside of the command prompt, and it will convert that window, that command prompt window, into PowerShell. So in this case, we can see that we are inside of the command prompt. So all I need to do is just type in PowerShell and press enter, and then it will convert this command prompt into PowerShell. So it's going to take a minute, I guess. Oh no, there you go. That was it. So we can see, you can be ensured that this was actually done correctly when you actually see the PS at the beginning of your command line, and it is now being converted from what this previous command line was to this actual command line, which is PowerShell with the user captain. So we are now in, and we are ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in full screen so that I can just focus on this window, and then I will take these instructions and open them in a separate window so that I can basically just go through the instructions and just demonstrate it for you by inputting everything inside of this window that we see right here. So we officially have our Windows command line here. So let's kind of make this a little bit easier to navigate. And give me one quick second. Okay, cool. So we are officially ready to go. So As we understand, is that the basic syntax of commandlets inside of PowerShell are a verb-noun combination. So, get content, for example, that would be a commandlet combination. So get content would work with, retrieving the contents of a file and displaying it onto your display, onto your terminal right here. But you can see that there's get, which is the verb, and then content is the noun in this environment. There's another one that we can use, which is, for example, set location, right? So set would be the verb and location would be the noun, and that changes the current working directory into something else, right? So I could say set location, and I could do C/users and press enter, and it should, I feel like it's going to take a couple of seconds for these things to actually load, but you can see that as I run it now, my command has been changed into the users directory instead of being inside of the captain's directory. Now, let's see if we can still run all of our other commands, which, for example, we can. So if I do dir, it will still list the contents of my current directory, and dir is a command that comes with the basic command line, the basic cmd.exe of Windows. And we could probably still even do cd to change directory into captain, and that'll still work as well. So you can technically do set location and change your directory, or you could just do cd and change your directory. But the whole idea here is that commandlets work with a verb noun combination. And then so CLS for clear screen also works, and now we have a fresh PowerShell command line. So our basic commandlets that we need to be aware of so that we can get access to more commandlets and just kind of get the overall idea here. The very first one is called the get command commandlet. And basically what it does is it gives you a list of all of the different commandlets that you can actually use, right? So wait job, that's a commandlet. Write error, that's another commandlet. You can just go up, right? Set local group, set local user, set location, set process mitigation. And you can go, again, just these are a bunch of different commandlets that are available on this particular instance of Microsoft Windows that I am logged into. And then we have all of these various commands that are available to us, right? So I can actually go to the get AD portion of this. It's not here, so I guess the get AD portion is not listed here for me, but you can very much easily do the get AD and then user, for example, and it will give you the Active Directory user. So let's just do that as an example. Let's see it works on this here. So get AD user, press enter, and it says the term is not recognized as the commandlet. So we have get AD user string, command not found, so on and so forth. So maybe that's not available to me. Let me see if I am maybe missing the syntax or if it's just not available on this machine. Okay, so I actually had the appropriate commandlet, but I think I may have been missing some options that need to go with it. So we can do get AT user, and we're going to, or AD user, and then we need to assign the filter option to it, and then we're going to filter it in a few different ways. So number one, I want to say enabled, meaning that I want it to actually be enabled. So we're going to say enabled equals true, so we want the username to actually be enabled, and then we're going to essentially pull some properties from it, which would be, for example, the name and let's say the email address. Let's say we have that, and then we actually run that, and now it says it's actually not recognized as the name of the commandlet, which means that in this particular instance of PowerShell that I'm running, I do not have the get AD user commandlet. And it wasn't available on the list of our commands when we ran through this whole thing anyway, so now I have been rest assured that I cannot pull Active Directory contents and Active Directory users from this particular instance, which is fine. It's perfectly fine. It's most likely because we have logged in via SSH, and maybe it's just also because of the fact that this specific computer that we have, if we run the version command, nothing shows up from us, so it's not recognized because I'm in PowerShell. So ver was actually a command line cmd.exe command, So to be able to get the version of something, then I would have to use the commandlet to actually get that version. So I'm kind of jumping around here, but I do want to see what version of Windows we're logged in on before we continue. So let's see what the commandlet is to actually get the version of the computer. All right, so we have a couple of options here. So let's see, get computer info. Let's see if we can actually get any data from that. And okay, that is working. So it'll probably pull that information for me. And there's a lot of information that it's going to pull here. So what we can do is just go up here and look at the Windows version, which is 2009. And it is what, a Windows Server 2022 data center. I feel like this would, it should have, at the very least, the commandlets for getting AD objects like AD users and groups and things like that, but I guess it wasn't included. So it would probably, I'm going to venture a guess that it's not available because I'm logged in via SSH, and that's the reason why it's not working. But just to not get sidetracked and actually do the exercises that we're supposed to be doing, we're going to continue on with our basic commandlets here. So we had the get command, which is the commandlet that is actually going to get us the list of commands that we can run inside of this particular installation of Windows. So that's what our first one is. And then for each command info object, we can actually retrieve different parameters or different characteristics, right? So for each command info object that's retrieved by that specific commandlet of the get commandlet, some essential information like properties are displayed in our console. So these are the properties that you can see right here, like each one of these. So commandlet, that's the name of it, and these are the various properties that are included for it, right? So it's possible to actually filter the list of commands based on the displayed property values. For example, if you want to display only the available commands of the type function, then we can use the command type function filter or property. So we can do get command, right? And then the command type is essentially what we can see on the left side right here. So this is a cmdlet, right? So these are all commandlets. So what we want to do is we want to filter based on the command type. So that's our filter right here. And that would be done with a dash and then capital C command, capital T type, all in one word. And then you would do inside of quotations the word function. You press enter and it would only pull up the ones that they actually have the function property as their command type. And now we can see that we have a shorter list in this particular case, and these are all functions that we can do. So you can do the same thing for any other type of command type. So in this particular case, the command type is function, but we can run the same exact command, and instead of function, we can say cmdlet, and it would only build or pull up the list of the commandlets that are available in our list of given commands on this particular machine. So you can filter it by essentially, I would say anything, but in this particular case, the most useful filter would be the command type in the list of commands. And then there is a few other very basic commands that are really useful, which is the get help command. So for example, it'll give you the help menu for any other type of commandlet. So let's say we do get help and then we do get command, right? So we're getting the help for this particular command, which is the commandlet of get command. And then it would give you, hopefully, it'll give me, there we go, the help menu for the get command commandlet. So it says this is the name of it, this is the synopsis, it gets all the commands, and then these are the different syntaxes that you can use. This is the full description of it. These are related links, remarks, so on and so forth. So we can do this with essentially any other commandlet, right? So I could do the help menu of the get date commandlet, and then it will give me the help menu for that specific commandlet. So this is essentially the equivalent of using the man function inside of Linux, where it gives you a manual for something, or using the /? inside of the regular command line of Windows to get the help screen for something. So that is very, very useful to know how to do, is to get the help menu so you can understand how each one of these things work. So the first one would be to get the commands by doing get command, and then if you're curious about any of them, you can just say get help and then give the given command, and then it'll get you the help menu along with the synopsis, the description, and the various options, so on and so forth. So get help informs us that we can retrieve other useful information about a commandlet by appending some options to the basic syntax. For example, appending examples to the command displayed above, which would be our get help get date. So if I do get help and then do get date and then do examples, press enter, it will give me examples. So we can go ahead and see what the potential examples are for this particular case. It would be get date, u format, and it will print it out for me in the format that I want it to, so on and so forth. So this is a very useful series of functions. As you can tell, it actually becomes, the more you stack on these options on top of it, it actually just becomes more and more useful, and it'll start giving you some really powerful tips. So in this particular case, we can actually get examples, and it will be shown a list of common ways that we can use the chosen commandlet, which is in this particular case get date, and then it will give us that information. So it says example 1, get date by itself will do this. Example 2, get date display hint date will give you a different type of output, right? So it'll just give you the date instead of also inputting the time onto the screen. Example 3 would give you the format in the day that you want it. So it would give you the day first, then it would give you the month, day, and year. Whereas in this particular case, I mean, and this one is also doing the same thing, but now instead of doing June 25th, 2019, it's doing 06, 25th, 2019. And then you can also do the hours and the minutes and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of different examples, right? And then they're headed. Each one of them has a header that says example 5, for example. And then you'll go on and get example 7 and so on and so forth. So very, very useful if you just add example at the end of your command for a commandlet, and it'll now give you a bunch of different examples for it. So that's very, very nice. So the next one that we have here is to get the aliases. So we can do the get alias commandlet, and it will give us all of the aliases that are available. So these are PowerShell Professional. So it makes it easier for PowerShell professionals, to include aliases, which are the shortcuts or alternative names for commandlets. So these are, for example, the shortcuts for all of these various command names. So instead of doing write output, you can just do write, and it will run this entire commandlet for you. If you do T, instead of doing T object, then it will run that commandlet for you. So these are all of the aliases that are available for each one of these different commandlets that exist on our system. And you can see that this list is much shorter because the full list of commandlets that we got earlier when we ran get command was a much longer list. So these are, I would say, probably for the most important ones. For example, so if you do wget, which is invoking the web request, meaning that it's going to pull from some kind of a URL information or data or a download that you want it to pull. So invoke web request is the same as wget, which would actually pull something from a URL. So this is indispensable for users that are already familiar with other command line tools. Get alias lists all the aliases that are available. So for example, dir, dir, is an alias for get child item, and cd is an alias for set location, as we already established. So when we run something like dir, we are technically actually running get child item, and I'm pressing enter, and it gives you the same exact thing. So those are two in the same, or one in the same, right? And when we do cd, press enter, I mean, I haven't given it a location, but cd would essentially change the location, change the directory to the place that I want it to change to. So very, very useful to know that there are aliases that are available to these various commandlets that we're going to be using. So there's another thing that you need to be aware of, is that you can actually download commandlets. So that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't have the get ad user commandlet, because it wasn't included, and if I wanted to, I would be able to download it for myself. So Another powerful feature of PowerShell is the possibility of extending the functionality and downloading additional commandlets from online repositories. So the ones that are listed in our section require a working internet connection to query online repositories, and the machine that I'm connected to does not have access to the internet, so I won't be able to do it. So what I can do instead of that is I could just go through this entire list that is available for you, just so you can see what potential options you have. So you can download commandlets. And so one in this particular case would be first to search for the modules that are available in online repositories. We can use the find module. Sometimes we don't know the exact name of the module, so it can be useful to actually just go through the list. And we can do this by filtering the name property and appending a wildcard so that it can just pull up anything that has a partial name for it. So for example, commandlet property pattern, and then the asterisk will get you anything that has the name pattern in it. So in this case, we do find module name PowerShell, and it will just pull anything that has PowerShell. So notice that there's an asterisk right there. So pull anything that has PowerShell in it. So for example, PowerShell YAML, PowerShell get, PowerShell module invoke winget, PowerShell for GitHub, so on and so forth. So you would find the module name by filtering for the name property, and then you would just give it whatever you're actually trying to look for, and then hopefully you'll be able to find it. So for me, it would probably be trying to get like get AD user, because I'm so obsessed with it right now and I'm sad that it wasn't available. So once you've identified, the module can be downloaded and installed from the repository with the install module commandlet, making the new commandlets contained in the module available for use. So once we actually have the name, so let's say PowerShell get is the one that we want, we would come here, install module, give it the name PowerShell get, and then it would say untrusted repository, you're installing module, da 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 da. Are you sure you actually want to do this? And then you would say, yeah, of course I want to do this. And then you download the PowerShell commandlet. So pretty cool, pretty useful to know that you can actually do that. So here are our first list of questions. How would you retrieve a list of commands that start with the verb remove? For the sake of this question, avoid the use of quotes or, so either these double or singular quotes inside of the answer. So we want to find a list of commands that start with the verb remove. And so the syntax for that would actually be right here. It's like right over here. So it's basically this, right? So it would say, find module and then go by the name. And then we just don't use the quotations here. And then we would do remove as our verb that we're trying to find here. So we can do something along the lines of find module name and then do remove asterisk. Press enter, and hopefully that's the answer. And let's see if that is indeed the answer. So it's not the right answer. So it says that how would you retrieve a list of commands that start with the verb remove? I thought that was it. So maybe that is not it. So let me see what else we can do here. I think that's what the problem is. So instead of doing find module, we probably, okay, there you go. So it's asking us to get a list of the commands that start with the verb remove, and that is done using the get commandlet instead of doing it find module, because we're not trying to find one to install. We're just trying to retrieve it from the current list of commands that we actually have installed on the computer. So that makes sense. Next question is, what commandlet has its traditional counterpart echo as an alias? So let's actually go over there and see if we can find our list of aliases one more time, and then get actually that echo one. So get alias is what we're looking for, and then we're going to look for alphabetical. So we have echo, and then the commandlet that would be matched up to it, which in this particular case is write output. That would be the commandlet that we got. So let's do this. So write output, press enter, there we go, perfect. And what is the command to retrieve some example usage for the commandlet new local user? So we would first do get help, then we would do new local user, I can't spell, and then we would do example, or examples maybe. There we go, perfect. So get help, which is getting the help menu, new local user, which is the commandlet that we want, and then examples. So we're just going to get some examples for new local user. Very cool, very useful. I am loving this so far. So all right, let's move on to our next one, which is navigating the file system and working with files. All right, so as we saw, get child item is another one of those kind of commandlets that allows us to interact with the file system and working with files. So obviously there are many more of them. So let's actually run through our list of commandlets that are available for this thing. So the very first one that we had, which was the similarity to dir, is the get child item, right? So that pulls basically all of the contents of the current directory that you are in. So if you want to actually give it a specific location instead of the location that you are in right now, you would then use the path parameter. So you can actually say get child item and then give it a location for the path. So we can do get child item and then do path, and then give it, let's say, we can do dot backslash, meaning the current directory, and then move to documents, for example, and then just list what you have inside documents. And inside of the documents location, we have the captain cabin, and then we have Windows PowerShell. That's basically what's available inside of the documents path right here. So get child item path documents would give you essentially a dir output, right? So if I just did dir and I did this documents, let's see if I can do it without the actual path portion, it'll still do that for me, right? So that works just as well. And then we can do the same thing with the cd command, right? So I can do set location and then give it a path, and then for that I would just do documents, and that will actually take me into documents. And then I can do cd ... and it'll take me back, or I could do cd documents and it'll take me into documents. So the alias is cd, the actual commandlet is set location, but both of them serve the same exact function. Now it just happens to be that it's so much easier to do cd ... and then go do that than having to do set location. That's why we have things like aliases, to just make it a little bit faster for somebody to be able to execute a lot of these commands. So another one is the new item commandlet. So if you want to create an item in PowerShell, we can actually use the new item commandlet. And this is something that it's a little bit, I would say, not really more complicated, but it's a longer command. So let's say I'm gonna start using these actual commandlets just to kind of get it in my bones here. So I'm gonna do set location. I'm gonna go into my documents, and then inside of my documents, I want to create a new item, which is going to be a any given directory. So I can actually just do new item in my current directory, and I'm going to do item type, and then we are going to create a directory inside of it. And I believe I would actually need to assign the name to it. So that's the other piece that I have not done. So before I do that, I actually have to use the path option and then assign the name to it. So in this case, I will do the quotations dot backslash or forward slash. I think either one will work. And then we actually need to give the name. So we'll do new dir, and that will be the name. And then we will say item type, and that's going to now be directory. And do that, press enter. And so now we have created a new directory named new dir, and that should be inside of my current location. So if I actually just get the contents of what I want, which is get child item, I will go ahead and get the new dir, that is the new directory that I just created inside of my current documents folder. So you can do it that way by doing new item and then giving the path, and the path is essentially the name that you're assigning to it, right? So this is what I mean when I say it's not really complicated, it's just a little bit of a longer process. But right now it seems kind of redundant because it just feels like we could just do what we did with the cmd exe video and just create something really quickly. but I want to get into the habit of using these commandlets and their various options so that we can, once we get to some of the more advanced stuff, because we're going to actually get into scripting, once we get into some of the more advanced stuff, we get the concept here. We get that there is the commandlet, which has a verb and then a noun, and it has these parameters and these options that you can attach to it, and that will make things, it'll make it easier when you get to the more advanced stuff to kind of wrap your head around all of those things. So that is what we did with the new item commandlet, and we were able to create it for yourself. So now let's actually go into the new dir location. So we'll do set location new dir, and then we'll actually go into the new dir location. Oh, I didn't even have to capitalize it. I feel like now I am inside of this thing. So let me cd one more time and see if I can do set location new dir all lowercase, and it'll still take me in it. Isn't that interesting? So, okay, now I want to kind of experiment a little bit. So I'm going to go back one more time. I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to do new item, and then I will do as the path, I'm going to put it inside of obviously the new directory. So we'll do the dot backslash, we'll do new dir as the location that we want it to be, and then we'll do file.txt, and that's going to be the name that we want. And then the item type option in this case is going to be a file, and I'm just going to press enter on that, and it's going to complete it, so it'll be fine. So now if I go into new dir properly and do a dir command here, we can see that we have that file. So we're going to go back one more time, and then we're going to do a set location, and instead of doing new dir properly, I'll just do new dir lowercase. And then now here's the thing, let's see if it actually has the file in here, and get child item, press enter. Okay, so here's what we learned. So when you do your set location, it doesn't have to, it's not case sensitive. So it'll just take you into whatever it is as long as you spell that correctly, and then you'll be inside of the new location. It says new dir all in lowercase, but we can see that the contents of that directory are exactly the same as if we had spelled it with the appropriate cases. So that is actually something that's interesting. I didn't know that before. So now we learned something new. So very, very exciting. Okay, so now that I have created my new items, I need to delete my new items. So in this particular case, what I need to do is I need to remove something. So we can actually have the remove item commandlet that will remove both directories and files. In Windows CLI, you would have to use rmdir for removing directories, and then erase or del delete to actually remove a given file. But what we can do right here is we can just remove the item completely by just using the remove item commandlet, and then we can also copy items, and same thing to doing copy. You would just do copy item as the commandlet or move item as the commandlet. So these are some very, very interesting things that we can do. So before we delete them or before we remove them, let's actually do a little bit of copying. So if I am inside of my new directory and I can see that I have the get child item, I already did it, so it's already on the screen. So what I can do here is I can do copy item, and I'm going to do file.txt, and then I'm going to do file2.txt, press enter, and then now I'm going to write get child item one more time, and we can see that we have now officially copied those items. So if I wanted to move them, I'll do move item, which is the same thing as doing move, right? So if I do, and we can just do this as a basic command here. So I can do copy, which will be the alias to copy item that I just did, and I'll just do file2.txt, and I'll put it in file3.txt, press enter, and then I can do dir, which is the equivalent of running the get child item, which will give me the contents of my current directory. So now I can see that copy command actually worked. So it's the same as doing copy item. And now we can do move, which will be the same as doing move item commandlet, and I'll just move file.txt into, let's say, this. Let's see if that'll actually work. And it seems to have worked. It actually did move it, and I didn't even need to give it the full path. I just did the dot dot, which means I wanted to just put it inside of my documents folder. So then I can now go move item as the commandlet, which should do the same exact thing that move does, and I'll do file2.txt, whoops, and then put that inside of the upper directory, we can list it and we can see that, okay, that also moved. So now if we go to set location and then move ourselves to one back, we are now inside of the documents folder. And if I can do the get child item, we can list that and we can see that the files have now been moved to this location. Okay, so we have done copy item and copy, we've done move item and move. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and do some more kind of file workings or file manipulations before we finally just remove these items. So what we can do in this particular case is get the content of these files, but they're empty. So if I just do get content file.txt, there's nothing in it, so nothing's going to print. So I can just do echo, and I will go ahead and put it inside of the or whatever I need to do. So I need to do echo, you know, hello world, and I will put that inside of the file.txt, and that should work. So now if I do get content for file.txt, I now have actually contents inside of it. So that actually works. So get content is the same as writing the type command, which was available in our command line tutorial. So let's see if that actually still works inside of PowerShell. And that does work. So type is, I would say, the alias for the get content commandlet. So we now have that as well. So now we can actually get the contents of a file. We know how to move a file. We know how to copy a file. We know how to create a file by doing new item. We know how to create a directory by doing new item. So now finally, we need to do a little bit of housekeeping here. We need to do a little bit of cleaning up. So we know, so let's clear the screen a little bit. So if we do get child item, we can see that these are the contents that we have. We have the new dir, we have the files, so on and so forth. So what I can do is I can do remove item, which is the same thing as doing a delete technically, but this actually applies to directories as well as files. And I'll do file.txt and file2.txt, press enter. Now it says remote item, the remove item, file.txt, file2.txt. There we go. And it says parameter cannot be found that accepts the argument file2.txt. So it only works with actually one item. So we can only remove one item at a time. I understand. So now that that has been said, so let's see if it worked. So neither of them worked. So we can now do remove item and then do the file.txt. Let's see if that worked. Okay, that's great. Now we can do remove item. I keep doing remote item, remove item, and then do file2.txt, and that seems to have worked perfect. So now we can remove the last path here, which is our new dir. So now let's see, there's contents in it. So let's see what message we get. It says the item at this has children and the recurse parameter was not specified. If you continue, all children will be removed with the item. Are you sure that you want to continue? Okay, so I like that. So it doesn't tell me that I can't do it because it's not empty. It just says, are you sure you want to do this? So I'm going to say, yes, I am sure I want to delete it. And now if I run dir one more time, that directory has been deleted. So I like this a lot more than having to add additional options to it. Even though technically you can do the recurse parameter to actually make sure that everything is deleted without being prompted if you want to do it or not. So technically you can do that. But if you don't include it, it'll just ask you, are you sure you want to do this? And of course you can simply say, yes, I'm sure. And then it will delete it for you. So very cool. I'm very, very excited about that. That actually worked. So now let us go to our questions here. So at the bottom it says, what commandlet can you use instead of the traditional Windows command for type? And so type prints everything onto the screen. So it would be get content, I believe, is the commandlet. Excellent. What PowerShell command would you use to display the contents of the user's directory? For the sake of this question, avoid the use of quotes or inside of your answer. So we are trying to do the contents of the user's directory. So it would be get child item and then the path, and it's going to be the C and then / users like that. And there you go. That is the command for that, to get the contents and how many items are displayed by the command that is described in the previous question. So let's actually go and pull that up. So get child item of the users directory. So let's actually go and do that and see what we got inside of the users directory. So we can always just do the set location and change it, but we're not doing get children. We're doing get child item, and we are going to do the path, and the path is going to be the C users location. And so what do we got? We got 4. So administrator, captain, pirate, and public. And those are our 4 items, and voila, we have all the answers. So very cool, really excited about it. Now we can move on to piping, filtering, and sorting data. So piping is a technique that we use in command line environments that takes the output of one command and it uses that output as the input for another command, and it's represented by this pipe symbol that we see over here. So for example, if I do the get child item and then pipe it to using the sort object and using the length parameter. So I'm going to get all of the child items of this specific location, and then I'm going to take the output of that, which would essentially just print everything normally, just tell us what is inside of our directory. But except this time, now we're piping the output into the sort object commandlet, and then we're going to sort it by its length. And then that way now it's going to go in ascending order. So this one is 0, this one is 264, and then 264, and then 2116. And it's sorting in ascending order by the length of the item. So that's one way that you can pipe the output of one commandlet into the input of another commandlet. That's how that works. So we can do this in a variety of different ways. So you can say get child item where the object, so get child item is going to get all the contents of the directory. You're going to pipe that into where the object, so it's not saying where the object, but it's basically saying where the object of these child items, the property of it, meaning the extension property of that child item, equals to .txt. So now it's going to find any object that has .txt as its extension. So get child item, pipe the output of that into where object property extension equals txt. And now it's only going to pull up the files or items inside of this location that actually have the txt extension. So you can do this in a lot of different ways. And the operators that we deal with in a lot of cases have to do with the equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. Now these are, for more often than not, if you just use equal to or not equal to, you can actually use that for strings, for string values. But when you start doing greater than, you're actually just only filtering for objects that have a specific numeric value or specific integer value, because you can no longer say greater than when you're just using strings as the comparisons. So greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, all of those things are going to be relevant to numeric objects, right? So it actually has to have some kind of a digital value, a digit integer value, so that you can actually use greater than or equal to, so on and so forth. But equal to just by itself, EQ, as you can see right here, where we created this previous command, it can actually be used for strings as well, or essentially we can say text or alphabetized alphabet characters, as well as numeric characters, integers. So everything else has to be just for integers. You can also do something with the concept of like. So if you don't know what it is exactly, you can say that you want the name. So for example, get child item where the object property name, so in the name property of that object, I want to see if it's anything like ship, and then of course you would need to include that wildcard character. So now what it's going to pull up is any name that sounds like or looks like it has ship in it, and then everything else. So in this case, the only thing that was available was ship-flag.txt. So in this case, you're over here, you're saying that it actually is equal to this, whatever this thing is that we're looking for. In this case over here, what we're saying is it's like this. So meaning that it includes this somewhere in its name, and I want you to pull anything that has that in its name. and then we have the selection of that object, which means now it's going to start displaying certain contents for you. So if I do get child item and then pipe the output of that into the select object commandlet, I have to give it the parameters that I'm selecting. So now I want to select the name of this thing, and I want to select the length of this thing, and I want you to display it for me. And what it's going to do is it's going to display it for you in that exact order. So if we pay attention to the output in this case, first came length, then came name. But when we do this in this case, where we do select object, it puts it in the order that you actually designate over here. So it will first do name, and then it will do length, or essentially any other object parameter, object property that you have chosen. So the pipeline can be extended by adding more commands, as the feature isn't limited to just piping between two commandlets. So you can actually combine it with multiple commands. As an exercise, we can build a pipeline of commandlets to sort and filter the output with the goal of displaying the largest file in the user's Captain Documents, Captain Bin, or Captain Cabin directly, so or directory. So we can actually do that and then see what the potential response is. So let's try it out and see if we can come up with the appropriate command to sort the output of the contents inside of this directory. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, so the first thing that we would first do is just get the child item of the path that we're looking for. So the path in this particular case would be the C users, what is it? Users Captain Documents, and then the Captain Cabin. So let's enter that, see if we can get it. Okay, so there we go. So we got all of the child items. And so now we're trying to sort them in with the largest file inside of this thing. So we want the largest file inside of this whole location. So I know that if we do the get child item path, it'll give me that output. So what I need to do in this case is I need to pipe the output of this into the sort object commandlet that we had before. So we're going to do sort object and then length, right? So length was the thing that we had, and then we're going to press enter. And I mean, the output is exactly the same, so that didn't really change much. But we want so this is ascending, so we want a descending length. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna do this right here. So let's do how do you spell descending? Descending, I think that's it. So descending, press enter. Okay, that worked. Okay, so cool. So it actually did, all I had to do was just do dash descending, and now it gave me the same contents in descending order. So technically I have the largest one at the top, but it's saying that the goal is to display the largest file. So you want to just display the largest file. So what we can do is run the command, and now we can pipe this, the output of this, into another commandlet, which for us was it's going to be selecting an object, right? So you're going to select the object out of all the objects that you have, which is the first object that we want. So it's basically this object that we want. Oh, I accidentally pressed enter. So it's basically this object that we want. So that I don't know how to do. So I got to go actually kind of do some research to see what I can find here. Oh, interesting. So I guess it could be this. So I could do first and then first one and then press. Oh, there you go. So I guess same thing. If I could do this and do first two, it'll print the top two. Okay, that makes sense. So you just do select object and then the first parameter, and then you feed it this argument, which would be the number of results that you want. So you can do the same thing in ascending order. So I could do this, I could do first one, and then go back here, and instead of doing descending, I could just say sort them by their length and just leave it like that, and then press enter. So now it should bring the smallest file, right? So it organically just goes in ascending order. So if you just do it in descending order and then do select object, the first one, then it would bring you the largest file. So yeah, that's it. That's basically what we got. for our exercise. So it's, we piped the result of get child item from this path without actually going into that path. And then we piped the result of that output into the sort object commandlet. And then we sorted it by length. And then we can do the select object commandlet. So we piped the output of this one. Once it's been sorted by length, we piped the output of that into the select object commandlet. And then we were able to pull the first one, which in this case is going to bring the smallest file because it's going in ascending order. But if we did the descending version, which is what we had over here, then it would print the largest first, and that would go into descending order. So, all right, that's pretty cool. That's not bad. That was a useful little exercise. I like that a lot, actually. We can see that this is now becoming, as you start stacking these things on top of each other, you can see how useful the commandlets are now becoming. And the last one in our particular set of filtering commandlets is the select string commandlet. And it searches for the text pattern within files, similar to what is done with grep inside of a Unix-based or Linux system. And it uses, or the I guess the find string command inside of the command prompt. So select string acts as a search function, so to speak. So it's commonly used for finding specific content within log files or documents. And so this is an example that we have here. So we do select string, and then in the path for Captain Hat text. So inside of that text file, you're looking for the pattern hat. And then it's going to pull it, and it's going to say, I guess this is on line 8, where it says, don't touch my hat. And that's where it pulls. So it actually pulled the entire line. The select string commandlet fully supports the usage of regular expressions. So if you don't actually know what you're looking for, instead of doing pattern and then giving the word itself, you can actually put regular expressions in it, which is very, very powerful. If you don't know how to use regular expressions, I highly, highly recommend you go ahead and watch the video on regular expressions that's on this channel. It's a really good video, and it teaches you how to create them, and it teaches you how to use a few different sources or resources to verify them, so that you can make sure that you're using the right patterns as you craft your regular expressions. So this is actually very, very cool that you can just use the same pattern parameter here and then give it anything as an argument, and that argument could actually be a regular expression pattern. So that's very, very useful. The only question that we have here is, how would you retrieve the items in the current directory with a size greater than 100? For the sake of this question, we're going to avoid the use of quotes. So we're going to retrieve the items in this current directory. We're going to sort them, and then with a size greater than 100. So let's see how we can craft this specific little command here. Okay, so the first step would be to get the child items, and then we're going to pipe that because we're just using the current directory. So it's the get child item, and then we are going to look for stuff that is greater than 100. And I believe we would use the where object portion of this. So where do we have select object, and then we have this. So get child item where the object property is greater than, right? So we'll probably end up doing greater than, and then right here, so greater than, and then give it the size. And so essentially it's the length, which is the size in this particular case. So we are going to give the greater than. So it's going to be get child item where object, and then the property that we're looking for is the length. So where property length is greater than 100, like that. I think that would be it. Sweet. Okay, great. So you're going to pull the child item, meaning you're going to get the contents of the current directory, and you're going to pipe the result of that, the output of that, into the where object commandlet, and then you're going to search by the length property, and you want that length property to be greater than 100. And there you go. Just like that. It worked. That was kind of like tongue-in-cheek, but I'm glad it worked. Okay, very good. All right, so now let's move on to the system and network information. All right, so now it seems to be that we're kind of getting closer to the automation portion of this whole thing. So the concept here at the very first line, it says PowerShell was created to address a growing need for automation and management tools to help system administrators and IT professionals. As such, it offers a range of commandlets that allow the retrieval of detailed information about the system configuration and network settings. So for example, get computer info, which is something that we ran earlier to try to get access to some information about the version of the Windows that we're currently logged into. So the get computer info retrieves comprehensive system information, including operating system, hardware specifications, BIOS, and more. It provides a snapshot of the entire system, and that includes all of the stuff that you just talked about, and everything is done in a single command. So it is the counterpart of system info, which basically retrieves only a small set of the same details, and we use this inside of the command line or the cmdlet version of this training series, which is basically the last video. So if you run get computer info, this is where we get all the information that we saw previously, because we've actually just ran this command earlier in this video, so you are kind of already associated with it, or you're familiar with it. There's another one which is get local user, which helps us pull all of the local user accounts on the system, and the default output displays for each user their username, account status, and the description. So we can see it here. We have the username, the enabled or disabled account status, and then the description of this particular user. So this is the get local user, and it'll pull all of the users that are available on this particular machine. And then similar to ipconfig, we can actually get the net IP configuration. So ipconfig, if you remember from the last video, pulls your IP address, it pulls your subnet, it pulls your default gateway, so on and so forth. The equivalent of that as a commandlet would be to get the net IP configuration, which provides detailed information about the network interfaces on the system, so including the IP addresses, the DNS servers, and the gateway configuration. So we can see that here, right? So this is the IP address, IPv4 IP address. We have the IPv4 default gateway. There is no IPv6 default gateway that's over here. And then we have, of course, the DNS server. There's no IPv6 address, which is actually kind of interesting. I would think that maybe they cut off the response or something. But so the get net IP configuration is acting the same way that ipconfig does in the regular command line. So in case we need specific details about the IP addresses on the network interface, we can use the get net IP address or get net IP address commandlet, and it will show detailed for IP addresses that are configured, so including anything that's not active. So we have net IP configuration, which is currently what's going on, that is active, that's actually running, and then the stuff that is not active would be done with get net IP address. So then it will bring you, this is the IPv6 address that we have at the top that we didn't have in this particular case. And then we have the IPv6 address family. What else do we got? The address state, I guess, the skip as a source, whether or not it's active stored, so on and so forth. But at the very least, we were able to get the IPv6. So we can see that the IPv6 address was pulled by the get net IP address, because technically, I guess IPv6 is not active on this particular system, and only IPv4 was active on this particular system. And we can have this over here as well. So IP address, I didn't realize that there was another section at the bottom right here. So this actually gives us the full output right here. So we actually have our IP address number 1, that would be the loopback address, which is most likely 127.0.0.1, and then which is IP 178.209, which is the actual IPv4 address for this particular case, and then this is the loopback address, which is 127.0.0.1 as well. So it gives you the full information, and then right here you can see these square brackets and the ellipsis, which means that there is more information under this, right? So you have the IP address and then the interface and the alias, so on and so forth, address family, and then all of these other things that we see on the first one is also included for this one and this one and this one. So it gives you the full IP address configuration, including everything that is inactive as well as all of the active ones. So this allows IT professionals the ability to quickly access crucial system and network information directly from the command line, making it easier to monitor and manage both local and remote machines. So we have the commandlets of get computer info, which was the very, very top one, right? So get computer info, get local user, get net IP configuration, and then get net IP address. Those are the 4 that they shared with us. So other than the current user that we have in default administrator, what other user is enabled on the target machine? Okay, cool. So let's actually go and get all of our local users in this little target machine. So let's zoom in here and see what we got. Let me clean the screen here. So get local user is what we got. And so other than me, which is captain, and then the admin, and there's the default account, there's guest, and then there's this guy. So pirate. Let me see if I can copy this. Can I copy this? I guess you can, right? Copy. There you go. So we can do that. So let's go over here. And what just happened? Okay, there we go. And we're going to paste that. That should be our user. Very good. So this lad has hidden his account among the others with no regard for our beloved captain. What is the motto he has so bluntly put as his account's description? So what is his description on his account? It says a merry life and a short one. That is his description. So we're going to take this whole thing, including that period at the end, and then we're going to do copy. Very good. And then go right here. And then let's paste it inside of his description. Why is my screen taking so long to load? All right, here we go. And we paste that. And there it is. So that would be the answer for that. Now there is a small challenge here, and we need to do it to put everything together. So it says this shady lad that we just found hidden among the local users has his own home folder in the users directory. Can you navigate the file system and find the hidden treasure inside of his home directory? So we're going to go to his home directory inside of our users directory, and let's try to see what data he has hidden in his situation. So let's do I'm going to do the, let's do set location so we can actually really get a hang of this whole thing. So set location, I want to go into C users, and then I'm going to do get child item to see what's going on, and there he is. So we actually have his freaking location here. So we're going to do P1R4T3 pirates. We're going to go inside of that, and then we're going to get the child items in here. And so get child item is not recognized, or is it get child item? So get child item. Oh, there we go. I see. So not child items, get child item. So okay, singular. So what did they say? They said it's inside. Was it hidden treasure chest? Maybe that's where it is, huh? So let's go to the set location and do hidden. And if I press tab, it doesn't. Oh, it does fill it in. Perfect. So hidden treasure chest. And now let's do another get child item, and we have the big treasure. So now we're going to do get contents, or content maybe, big treasure txt, and there it is. So look at that. Wow, that's fancy. Look at this guy. So that's the flag. So that's probably what they're looking for. So we're going to do this, copy that, and then go inside of this location and then paste that. Am I doing it? There we go. And then let's see if that's the answer that they were looking for. Cool. That is indeed the answer. So we have made some very decent progress so far. So now let us move to the next portion of this, which is real-time system analysis. To be able to gather more advanced system information, especially concerning dynamic aspects like running processes, services, and active network connections, we can leverage a set of commandlets that go beyond static machine details. The get process commandlet provides a detailed view of all the currently running processes, including CPU and memory usage, making it a powerful tool for monitoring and troubleshooting. So you run that and it gives you, these are the processes. So that's the process name, the CPU usage, the memory usage that's actually going through. So this is actually very useful. Then you have the get service commandlet that allows the retrieval of information about the status of services on the machine, like the which services are running, which ones are stopped, paused. It's usually used extensively in troubleshooting by system administrators, but also by forensics analysts trying to hunt for anomalous services that are installed on the system. So we would run get service. It will give us the display name, and then it gives us the actual name of it as well as the status. So Amazon SSM agent is the display name here, and so I would assume that the name and the display name may be different, right? So maybe the hacker has a good display name and you see it and you're like, oh, that looks normal, but then you actually go look at the name itself and you're like, oh, this is actually kind of, it looks malicious. Maybe the name of the thing is not proper, right? So this is BFE, which is actually base filtering engine, and that means that you can have a name that is different from the display name, and the display name, as it implies, is what we see on the surface level. So we would have to go a little bit further to try to see what the name of the executable or the service or the process is. And then we have the network connection. So get net TCP connection, which displays the current TCP connections, giving insights into both local and remote endpoints. This commandlet is particularly handy during an incident response or malware analysis task, and it can uncover hidden backdoors or establish connections towards an attacker-controlled server. So this actually gives us all of the get net TCP connections. So this is very similar to the netstat command that would give you all of your connections. So it would give you all of the TCP connections and whether or not they are listening, whether or not they are currently kind of in limbo or waiting, right? And if the connection has actually been established, which is also very important to understand. So if we ran this for our current machine, we should see at least one established connection that is to our attack box IP address, which is 10.10.87.39. So let's do this. Get net TCP. Is that what was it? I forgot already. It's get net TCP connection. So let me run that. Get net TCP connection and run that, and let's see what that does. And it should give me my connections. So I want to find at least one established connection in this environment, and one of them, so let's see, remote port, we got all these guys, and it doesn't show me. So let me see, maybe let's see. So I need the state of this to actually be available as well. So maybe we need to kind of expand this out, but it doesn't give me the state. It just says remote port, remote address, and so on and so forth. So it's not giving me the state of these connections, which is not what I'm looking for. I want the full thing. I don't know why I'm not getting the freaking full thing. It's so annoying. Okay, anyways, but getNet TCP connection should give you all of your connections, even though it's not doing it for me right now. It should give you all of your connections from your machine and anything that's listening and anything that's been established. And then we have get file hash, which is very useful, and it will give you the hash value of something. And hash values, as we talk about in the Security Plus training series that's going to be coming up in the next week or so, the hash values is something that is used to establish the integrity of something and check whether or not the integrity of something has been altered, right? So if you get one hash value and then you check on that file or that folder or that software in a week, and then you see that the hash value of that software has changed, that means something about that software has now been altered. That's why the hash value has changed. So it's a very useful commandlet for generating file hashes, which is particularly valuable in incident response, threat hunting, and malware analysis, because it helps you verify the file integrity and detecting potential tampering or alterations of those files. And they use file hashes a lot with forensic analysis and chain of custody mechanisms to make sure that files have not been tampered. forward. So get file hash, very, very useful. So these command lists collectively provide a comprehensive set of tools for real-time system monitoring and analysis, proving especially useful to incident responders and threat hunters. So in the previous task, you found a marvelous treasure carefully hidden in the target machine. What is the hash of the file that contains it? So we're going to go get the hash of that specific file, which was the, whatever it was called, the treasure something, right? So let's go over here, and then we're going to now do one more time. We're going to do a dir command here, and it's the big treasure text file. So I'm going to do get file hash, and then big treasure txt, and there we go. Look at that freaking hash value. That's nuts. And SHA-256 is the algorithm that it pulls for you by default. I'm pretty sure that you can actually go and pull a variety of other algorithms for the hashes, but in this case, it didn't say that they want it different. We just want the default, which is SHA-256. So that is the right answer. What property retrieved by default by the GetNet TCP connection contains information about the process that has started the connection? So what property retrieved by default by this contains information about the process that has started the connection? So we can actually pull this up from here. So local address, local port, remote address, remote port, state, applied setting, and owning process. So the process that has started the connection, I would say it's probably local. Is it right? Local address? Is that what it is? The property retrieved by default by getTCP that contains information about the process that has started the connection. So it contains information about the process that has started the connection. And that would be, I would say it's either owning process. It's probably owning process actually. So I'll try owning process. If not, I will have to do some research. So owning process. Oh, that is the right answer. Hey, let's go. Tongue-in-cheek guessing, and it's working. It's time for another small challenge. Some vital service has been installed on this pirate ship to guarantee that the captain can always navigate safely, but something isn't working as expected, and the captain wonders why. Investigating, they find out the truth at last. The service has been tampered with. The shady lad from before has modified the service display name to reflect his very own motto, the same that he put in his description. With this information and the PowerShell knowledge you have built so far, can you find the service name? So what we're looking for is the display name. So what we can see is getting service. So we're going to get service, and then we're going to do the display name. And the display name is supposed to match this freaking string that we had right here at the end of this one. So I'm actually going to copy the string, and then I'm going to say if I can actually copy this and maybe go and create this command where it says where the object of that service display name, where the object is, you know, whatever that slogan is. So we're going to do get service, and we're going to pipe it into the where object property display name equals that. So let's see if I can actually create this command that will give me exactly the response that I'm looking for. So here we go, get service, and let's just run this by itself and see if we can find that. Okay, so it's here, and it's too many responses here. So from here, I'm going to now go to the display name, and then we're going to put that string in there. So we're going to run this one more time, get object, and then we are going to, or get service, excuse me, where object property equals this thing. So we're going to paste this in here, and let's see, a merry life. Let's see if anything shows. So property equal invalid argument where object da da da. So maybe property doesn't need to have a dash in front of it. So let's remove the dash of the property. If not, I have to go and remember how to do this, and nothing showed up. So let's do where property, and then we will do, instead of equals, we can do like. Maybe that's what it is, and that didn't show anything either. So what I'll do is I'm going to remove that, and I'm just going to do a merry life, and then I'm going to do the asterisk and press enter, and nothing. So maybe I'm not using this correctly, because I don't want to sift and sort manually. So I want to get good at running these commands. So Let me see if I can find the right way to design this. Oh, I see. You know what? I think I actually missed this one thing. So the dash property part was right, but I needed to put the display name, I believe, inside of that. And so let's see. Okay, let's go back over here. We're going to go where object property. So we'll do this. We'll go here. Property is still going to be dashed. And then what we're going to do is right after this, we need to put something else like display name, like that, is like this. Damn, look at that. That is sweet. Okay, so that's the actual command, right? So get service, where the object property, so dash property, and then we're looking for the display name property, which is this thing right here. And then we're going to use the like, and then put a merry life and then an asterisk at the end of it, and then we can see that it fills in the rest for me. So a merry life and a short one, and this is the name of the thing. How crazy is this? I love when things work. It's so exciting. So I'm going to copy that, boom, and now we're going to go over here and we're going to go to our task that we were on, the real-time analysis. We're going to go down here. Come on, work. Let's go. Okay, cool, boom. I'm so excited. Hey, stop it, stop bothering me. Go here. I don't know what's going on with my system. There we go. Boom. I know that's going to work. So my system is running slow for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I may have too many things open right now. And I'm recording, so that's probably an issue as well. And I'm on a Wi-Fi that is not fast because I'm not on my home Wi-Fi. I'm at a relative's house and they don't have strong Wi-Fi. So that's basically where I'm at right now. But we're almost done. So we're on our last task before we get to the conclusion, which is the scripting task. So let's talk about that. So if you don't already know, scripting is the process of essentially writing a document. Inside of that document, there's going to be a bunch of different commands that get executed in order, and that is considered to be a script. And scripts are great for automating a variety of different tasks. Essentially, if you know the commands that you're running, you can just put it inside of a script, and then that script will execute each one of those commands in order, and it will do wondrous things in saving you time, energy, and a lot of times headache, and so on and so forth. And what's powerful about it is that when you have a script that can do a certain function, you can then reuse that script every single time without having to worry about an error being made in the execution of those commands. So for example, you want to create a new user, you want to make sure that the new user has certain parameters set in place, and then you want to just assign the group that they belong to, and so on and so forth. So you can write a script for that. It'll create the new user, and it will just ask you, hey, which group do you want them to be in, and so on and so forth. And it becomes very, very easy to repeat tasks flawlessly without any errors by using a script. So scripts are amazing. They save time, they reduce chance of errors, they allow you to do complex tasks that are very tedious or just repetitive, and you can do them very quickly at just running one script, and it will just do all of the tasks for you. So in PowerShell, learning scripting for us goes beyond the scope of this particular room. However, we need to understand that what it actually can do for us. So I'm not going to start creating scripts for you. If you are interested in the concept of scripting, I do recommend that you check out the Python video that we have that teaches you how to make algorithms. So you can do Python for cybersecurity on the channel, and I'll teach you the basics of Python and how to create algorithms. By the end of that training series, you'll learn how to create algorithms for cybersecurity. There's also a shell scripting video that is for Linux that goes through the same concepts. It's just a little bit different syntax, but the concepts are the same, creating for loops and while loops and conditional statements, if statements, so on and so forth. So the power of scripting is very, very, very amazing. It's like especially once you start running some of these things and you can see it work in real time, the first script that you create that actually works for you will blow your mind, and you'll get addicted to it, and you will never want to do things the old way again. So for blue team professionals, which are people inside of the defensive part of security, so these are incident responders, malware analysts, threat hunters, security analysts, PowerShell scripts can automate many different tasks. So for example, analyzing logs, which is one of the things that we talk about in the Python scripting video, because you create algorithms that can help you analyze logs and even take actions on your behalf. They can detect anomalies. They can extract indicators of compromise. These scripts can also be used to reverse engineer malicious code or malware, or automate the scanning of systems for signs of intrusion. So scripting can be very powerful in the context of defensive security or blue teaming. Then you have the red team, which is offensive security. So you have penetration testers, ethical hackers. PowerShell scripts can automate the task like enumerating systems, which I have actually created before and I've given to our Hackaholics Anonymous members. System enumeration, subdomain enumeration, port enumeration, service enumeration. They can execute remote commands. They can craft obfuscated scripts to bypass defenses. The deep integration with all types of systems makes it a very powerful tool for simulating attacks and testing the system's resilience against real-world threats. And then we have, just in the context of cybersecurity as a whole, system administrators benefit from PowerShell scripting for running integrity checks automatically. They can manage system configurations automatically. They can secure networks. They can run remote or large-scale environments securely. PowerShell scripts can be designed to enforce security policies, to monitor systems and the health of those systems, to respond automatically to security incidents, and enhance a lot of different things in the context of security. But it would be the system administrator's job to do those things. So if they learn how to do scripting, then it helps them run massively useful activities and scripts to just help their job, right? So whether you use it defensively or offensively, scripting in general, whether it's PowerShell or Python or Shell, Bash, in Linux, any of these types of scripting is a very powerful capability that you will use in your cybersecurity toolkit, in your arsenal. So before we conclude this, we can't go without mentioning the invoke commandlet, which is essential for executing commands on remote systems, and it makes it fundamental for system administrators, security engineers, and pen testers. It enables efficient remote management, and combining it with scripting, automation of tasks across multiple machines. So it can also be used to execute payloads or commands on target systems during an engagement by pen testers or attackers alike. And we can do this like so. So if we just run the get help commandlet to get more information about the invoke command and then use examples of it, we can see a bunch of different examples. So for example, you can run a script on a server. So you do invoke command and then file path, which would be the PS1 extension is the extension of a PowerShell script. So you would say, this is the file path of what I want you to run, and then I want you to run it on this computer. So that's one example of using invoke command. Another one would be invoke command, give it the computer, and then give it the credential. So this would be the credential, and then you say script block, and then this would be the specific, I guess, command that it's going to run, right? The specific script that it would run, which is the get culture script block or commandlet that it would use instead of actually giving it a PowerShell command. So there's a lot of different ways that you can run it. Obviously, there's going to be more examples of this, and I'm not going to go run through each one, but this specific series of commands is actually very useful. As when I learned about it, which is today, I learned about it today. I'm going to use it as frequently as I can because it's nice that they give you examples, right? So they say this is actually an example command that you can run using this specific tool that you want to use. And then from here, they give you a bunch of different commands. So the one that we ran earlier, I was going like by 7 or 8 examples. So the first 2 examples provided by this page and report above are enough to grasp the simplicity and power of the invoke command. The first example shows how it can be easily combined with any custom script. The second example demonstrates that we don't need to know how to script to benefit, because we can actually use something called the script block and use any other commandlet that will allow you to kind of run it as if it was a script. We can execute any command or sequence of commands on the remote computer. The result would be the same as if we were typing the commands in a local PowerShell session on the remote computer itself, running, typing them manually. So very, very powerful I absolutely love the fact that they shared this. It's not a lot of information that they shared, but even that little piece of information is extremely powerful. So what is the syntax to execute the command get service on a remote computer named Royal Fortune, and assume that you don't need to provide credentials to establish the connection? So what we want to do is execute the command get service on a remote computer named Royal Fortune. So we are going to use this specific example. So we're going to do computer name, and the credential is going to be Royal Fortune, and then the script block is going to be get service. So I'm literally just going to copy this right here, and I'm going to paste it, and then we're just going to modify it as we need to. So we're going to do that, invoke command, and then we're going to execute the command get service. So it's going to be this piece that needs to be changed to get service, and then we are going to change the credential of this instead of domain 01. So does it say to us anything about that? So it says computer name Royal Fortune, assumed you don't need to provide credentials to establish the connection. The computer name is Royal Fortune. So actually I don't need to provide credentials, so I can just delete this credentials portion. So we're going to delete that, and that should be fine. And the computer name is now going to be Royal Fortune. So we're just going to change that to Royal Fortune and enter, and voila. How awesome was that? So we are officially done with all of the main tasks of our PowerShell video, and now we can real quick run through the conclusion here. So well done. There really isn't anything else that's left for us to cover in this particular case. We can literally just click complete and we will be done with this room. And the very next one that we're going to talk about is the Linux command line. I have released so many Linux videos on this channel, and we're going to be going through the basics of the Linux command line. So if you haven't watched any of the other videos, I guess this will be useful to you. But if you've watched any of the other Linux videos, the most popular video that exists on this channel is a Linux SysAdmin video that we go through the command line with it. So if you haven't watched any of those videos, you're in for a treat, because we're going to go through some really good stuff. But even as recent as the last month, I released some fundamentals for Linux command line, as well as the Linux Plus training series, which is again just this massive thing that was very well received by our community. So if you haven't seen the Linux command line stuff, you're going to get some really good stuff between now and the next video. You can always go and get some education on the Linux command line. But for now, we are officially done with the Windows PowerShell, and we are on our way to get to some really good content. So I'm really excited. We're actually making really good progress on the CySec 101, the Cybersecurity 101 series, and I'm going to terminate these machines to make sure that I do some proper, housekeeping rules, so to speak. And then we can now just go and close out this particular recording. So let me just give you a couple of notes, and then we'll be out. So if you have not done so already, I want you to go check out all of the content that is available on the channel. There's a lot of great stuff that's available on this channel, and there's content coming out regularly. So like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, drop a comment, all that good stuff, so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out. And of course, if you have any questions or anything, just let me know in the comment section, and I'm very responsive to the comment section. And if it's a really big question, then I'll create a video in response to your question. But at the very least, go check out everything that's going on the channel. Like I said, we have a lot of videos that are on Linux. So this is the top video, Become a Linux System Administrator. We have the Linux Plus series that just came out as well. That's doing really well. So very good amount of content already existing on the channel, and I think you can get a lot of advantage from that. And of course, there's just new videos coming out all the time on the topics of cybersecurity and ethical hacking and system administration and so on and so forth. So I love this community. I do everything that I can to make sure that the community is taken care of. And the best way that you can get help for yourself is to drop a comment and let me know if you have any questions, so I can be responsive to you and get your questions answered, so you literally just get the most of what you're looking for. So there is that. Now the next thing that I want to tell you is the next layer of help that you can get, which is through the Hackaholics Anonymous membership community. So the Hackaholics Anonymous membership community is a paid community. It starts out at $5 for the cyber supporter, and then the tiers get more and more advanced. And of course, as you go up the tiers, you get more access to more resources and more perks. So, as the supporter, you'll get access to our Discord community, community, and you can join me as well as all of our advanced members, get all of your questions answered, and you just have somebody tag along with you as you're going through your cybersecurity journey. You'll get early access to content and some other perks as well. And then the advanced members, they start getting, you know, the live membership conversations, the live streams that we have. There is the advanced groups inside of the Discord community. There is Python automations that I give away. There's exclusive content. There's exclusive downloads that are associated with it. For example, all of the practice examinations and practice questions and the notes for the Security Plus content that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, and all the practice documents and practice questions and slides and everything that was just released on the Linux Plus series. So there's a lot of exclusive content that is available for the cyber agent tiers and above, which is considered to be the advanced members of Hackaholics Anonymous. But even as a basic supporter, you know, I am very they are close to my heart. The majority of our Hackaholics Anonymous members are just supporters who are just trying to show their support and be a part of our Discord community, and it means a lot to me. Believe it or not, that little $4.99, that $4.99 contribution just to join this community means so much to me, and I cherish every single person that comes in this community. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out the Hackaholics Anonymous community so that you can get access to all the extra perks and then just be part of the insider group, right? The cool kids club, so to speak. So that's it for all of the plugs that I have for you today. It's your boy Hank Hackers, and at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker / protector. Love, peace, and chicken grease. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.